Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Shannon's Shelf. I am Shannon, of course. So today, I'm doing a video I wasn't necessarily expecting to be doing, but I was tagged by Mark from Book Ramble uh, in his video, "What is it about books?" And I don't know. I've never really thought about this question, but I did think about it for a minute. I wrote down some thoughts, and I'll give you those thoughts, I suppose. I guess just I don't I don't want this channel to be like too philosophical because I feel like sometimes when you say philosophical things, people have a tendency to think, "Oh, this guy must know what he's talking about." And I want you to understand, I don't know what I'm talking about. But I do read a fair amount of philosophy. So if you ask my opinion on things, you certainly will be getting my opinion, but my opinion is informed by the books I read and also by some of the other thoughts I have and the things I experience. But regardless, uh, I've been reading a bit more Russian philosophy, 20th century uh, stuff more recently, so perhaps my opinions will change if you ask me this question in a couple months or in a couple years, especially. In fact, I would hope so. Hopefully, my opinion will be changing later tonight or later today. It will be different than it was at the beginning of the day. But regardless, what is it about books? Now, in many ways, the first thing that comes to mind is I think of book as a symbol. And I think of it mostly as a symbol of knowledge. Now, I do read a lot on my uh, phone now. I don't have like a dedicated e reader, like a little Kindle or whatever. Uh, I would like to get one at some point. Don't have the funds put aside for it currently, but it's convenient, it's cheap. Kindle Unlimited is nice. I use my phone, and so I don't have that designated e-reader, so I won't think about it specifically because I'm not exactly sure how I would feel about it. But when I see my phone, I don't think about knowledge. It's not a symbol of knowledge, a symbol of convenience or a symbol of technology generally in many ways. But as far as like book as in art, because that's what Mark talked about a little bit, uh, I almost feel like books are necessary, especially if we're not talking about just the ideas, because you can get similar ideas from things without books or without the physical copy of the book. It's kind of the physical thing. But images, including print material, are different when you see them digitally, and they're different than when you see them printed. And they're different than just printed and like a blank, like on its own standalone piece of paper, but different than when they're on books as well. Uh, Especially when it comes to the e-reader idea. I like to think it's the book of Kells. It's not the Nook of Kells, and I do not think they would be the same, despite being the same content, regardless, right? So I think it kind of gets materialistic, and I don't want to necessarily make this a materialistic thing. Uh, I do think there is a materialistic aspect to it, but I don't think it's as important as some people might automatically think it is. We do like to possess things, and there's certainly a biological evolutionary aspect, certainly that shouldn't be outright ignored. And Mark mentioned like a drug, maybe it's like a drug to us, kind of a dopamine hit when you buy a book, or when you like a slightly lesser dopamine hit every time you see the book. um, Especially if you're the type to think, oh wow, aren't I aren't I great for having all these good books that you should be reading, especially even if we don't read them necessarily. And not that everyone is that way, or that many of us are, but just to varying degrees. But I'm thinking about it in the sense of creativity. Now, this very well, as I already mentioned, could be being informed largely by this book I'm currently reading called The Meaning of the Creative Act by Nikolai Berdiev. And I'm actually not sure if I said his last name right, but that's how I said it regardless. And then you get through creation, you get an insight into man or humans or whatever through their sub creation, right? And the book puts it in physical form in an odd way. Now, most arts put things in a physical form, not all of them. I mean, painting is a window into nature or onto nature. Theater is essentially the stage. It's separate. There's a detachment from reality. We recognize that when we see that. And sculpture and architecture are kind of in nature, but I wouldn't necessarily say they are in many ways. I think perhaps a better way of saying that would be they're in space. And then music, in contrast, is in time. And In many ways, I would say that all of these arts, including books, when they're done properly, they will actively be like this three prongs of creation. At least this is what Birdie talks about, and I really like the idea. Now we'll see if it stays in my mind, at least for the future. But that is the beauty and knowledge, and I feel like books usually demonstrate the two. And the other one that lots of people ignore, unless they're living a religious life, is the moral aspect. And I still think we can get that done through great art as well, through every artistic medium. But books are a bit different, and I didn't really specify. But books are in both space and time. At least a physical book, I feel like it needs to take up that space, and you lose that when you don't have the physical book. Because almost rather than a window into nature, it's more like a portal. It is word, and word is a pretty interesting philosophical concept or whatever, and it's logos, it's meaning, and in many ways you could say it's poetry made material. And art is the ends. An artistic product is the ends of a creative process. And while we don't necessarily need the physical manifestation of the art, it's like you can hear music, right? You don't necessarily need to have the CD, especially in today's day and age of streaming. But it's never, music has not been so much about the space, and that's why we don't care. Like, we don't worry about CDs as, not having CDs as much as we do about not having physical copies of our books. And even art and philosophy in many ways doesn't usually get physical form in many ways, and it could be considered a creative act and perhaps even art in that regard. But it's just many ways it's that the book feels much more real. It's the poetry made real, and it's real especially concerning our mythical understanding of reality. It's immediate. It can be viewed even if it's on the fringes and it's naive and we're not consciously thinking about it all the time. It kind of comes back down to that. It's a symbol of knowledge, and knowledge is something that is worth having, right? Uh, so in many ways, even if you haven't read the book, you like having the book. But of course, it's better if you have read the book in many ways, that you have the poetry recorded, and it can take up that space and not just time. I would definitely think there's an argument to be made that oral traditions are inferior to literary traditions. That it's a proper stepping stone in the creative experience and the creative realm. And so hopefully that made some sort of sense. But that's kind of my thoughts for now. I'm a little torn. I actually am not against the idea of aesthetics and philosophy of literature and stuff being something I study pretty heavily, but I'm only on the precipice currently. So I'm not as equipped as I would like to be. But regardless, I felt like I should make the video. Mark seems like a decent enough fellow, and I discovered his channel only on Sunday. I mean, I've been discovering some channels and I've been appreciating it. I guess as far as tagging, you'll see, I'll leave it in the description. I'll tag some people. If you're interested, feel free, of course, don't feel obligated to. And I'll tag the people I know. I'll tag my brother, and I'll tag T, and maybe I'll tag Sam from Sam Not So Wise. He started his channel literally the exact same day I did. I've been keeping up with all his videos so far. Seems like a fair enough fellow as well. So maybe he'll have something to say. But regardless, feel free to go and check out Mark's thoughts and check out Mark's channel, because I've been enjoying it. At least I haven't watched all of his videos yet, but I have been enjoying it, what I have seen so far. And yeah, I will see you guys next time. Please feel free to like and subscribe. I greatly appreciate it. And you can come here and appreciate my beautiful ends of creation, my books, Garfield in particular. But either way, have a good one.